Yeah, I think we're live now, so it's good.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, hey. Are we live? I think we are.
I think I think we're live. Yeah, awesome.
Awesome, sounds good. Okay, we are.
Great. So, you start? Should I start, Eddie?
So I'm losing you a bit, just the sound. So can you repeat? Yeah.
No, I'm asking if you I should start or you should start.
Yeah. Oh, sure. I can start. So no worries. So yeah, like, hey, thanks for having me, man. Like, it was a pleasure always, like, talking in person, and now we can also do, like, live streaming. So it's always good. Yeah, some interesting
Wow.
stuff on Nimbora side. So yeah, happy to have a chat also this way. So yeah. So maybe I can do like
Okay.
a short start. What do you think about Nimbora in general? Like, so, like, just to introduce
I mean,
that part. So
so
you're good.
in this
You're
case,
good.
let me start. So yeah,
You're good. You're good.
so okay, so Eddie, so in this case, I'm just gonna start and serve as the host. The first question is, I mean, let's introduce, if you can introduce yourself very briefly. I'm going to introduce myself before. So I'm Louis. I'm the head of product market strategy at Starkware. I've been in crypto for 8 years, at Starkware for 5.5, and today I'm very happy to be with my dear Eddie that now I've been knowing for like 2 years and a half almost since he joined the Starknet ecosystem and starting to work on various of awesome stuff. Eddie, if you can start to sort of introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, what Nimbura does, what is your path to crypto, and how you get to Starknet, and why do you love it so much?
Yeah, why I'm so hooked now. It's like, yeah. So like my journey in Web3 started in 2017. First, before that I worked like enterprise Java, boring stuff and so on as a developer. But then an opportunity came to work on something that's called Socrates, which some of you know as a toolbox for ZK Snarks and Ethereum. So back in the day, the idea was to build this high-level DSL, something that Starknet is doing this today, to make basically onboarding to ZK easier. 5 years ago, it was like too far away and so on. So like that's why I decided to switch to Solidity Teams and spend basically there for like almost 2.5 years. So I was a core dev basically there, led something that's called Sourcify, which is kind of automatic verification tool for smart contracts. And that's how like the story started. And then we had the amazing stuff for something that's called DeFi Summer. So, like those who remember who are old enough to
Oh,
remember
the
how
good old
crazy it
time.
was.
The old good
Exactly.
time. I woke up at 5
Oh
a.m.
man.
to mint those things. Oh,
Man,
so a hell of a good time.
we had shifts over the weekend, who like clicks what and so on. The APRs were crazy. I remember like first meetup we had in Croatia, like there were three of us, and we were pitching to ourselves because nobody knew about this. Everybody was like, okay, you're crazy, it's Ponzinomics is going to die. And look, we are still building those kind of things. So it takes basically a bit of faith to start up these things. But yeah, like back in the day, like DeFi started and so on. So we were like, but we are like working on this like protocol stuff in Ethereum Foundation, and it's kind of nice, but it would be fun to like start some product work, try something, and so on. And I was a dev, usual dev jumping into the product like waters, don't know nothing, trying to build stuff. But when you think about it, back in the day, everybody was a dev. Like even community managers, everybody basically was a dev. So basically, that's how it started, and that's how Shard Labs basically started as a company. We basically a bunch of us like gathered and started building stuff, started experimenting, and then obviously like during that time, Shard Labs as a company like grew up and so on. We built a bunch of prototypes. One of the biggest projects basically out there was Light on Polygon, which is like the biggest LSD on Polygon to this day, biggest LSD of Matic. So some stuff were built like that really, really kind of like survived test of time and tried. But my personal passion was always EK because like back in the day, I scratched the surface like with Socrates and so on. And then I think Tom had a presentation in Paris or somewhere about Starknet making, it's becoming public and so on. Like it was pre-mainnet. I was like, wait a sec, is this the thing? Like they manage actually to build this? It actually kind of works. I can build apps. Of course, everybody was like, oh, just come build like the apps and so on. And that's how basically the journey of Starknet also started. So how we started tackling it. Like first thing we want to build some DeFi stuff, and then we figure out, oh, but there is like tooling missing. So can we contribute on tooling side? So that's how we kind of started on that front. And yeah, like 2.5 years already, I think, on the ecosystem, and it's been amazing, to be honest, because when you think about Louis also, like back in the day how it was, and now with all these teams ecosystem, how many people there are. When I see like Electric Capital reports, like how many, 300, 400, 500 people building, it's like back in the day it was like 10, 15, 20 people. So you know everybody, so it was really good. But yeah, like the ecosystem evolved, and so does the possibilities what we can build on top. So that's why basically the idea of Nimbora. So like I know we have this meme that like Starknet should be unaligned, Ethereum unaligned, but we are trying to help it move in the wrong, like different direction. So the whole idea behind Nimbora is actually quite simple. So like the idea is like we have L1 DeFi, we have a local liquidity there, and we have this cheaper execution on L2s, in this case Starknet. So why wouldn't we use that to scale this? Actually, I think you're one of the first articles I read about this was actually yours on the StarkWare blog or something like that back in the day. So maybe you are also to blame for the Nimbora story. Who knows?
I mean I did write a couple of articles and back in the day, and I'm working on making more now. Super excited. I mean, and as you said, you've been here for a long time. You've been building a lot of tooling for the infrastructure, for the ecosystem, as well as now Nimbora. I'm curious, so to hear more about what Nimbora actually does, and what do you think that brings to the market? So I'm reading the message at of hilarious. It's like I can't. I mean, oh god, I can. I literally cannot read. Okay, so yeah. So I'm curious to know. So you've been an infrastructure product. You build infrastructure. You build like applications. So maybe you can just walk us around what is Nimbora, and what is, from your perspective as a builder, the difference between one versus the others?
Sure. Let's start with the biggest like issues with like you have like L1 and you have like Starknet and so on. So what the kind of the biggest issue is like you have this asynchronicity on when you want to bridge from like mainnet to Starknet. It's kind of easy. You can do that relatively fast and so on. When you want to bridge back, you have to wait for proofs. So it takes some time and so on. So like there is a synchronicity with this. But users don't usually understand these things, and you have to explain them. And then you have like L1 strategies or L1 DeFi, which works only on L1. So how do you kind of bridge it to the users so they can use it from L2 without knowing the whole bridging kind of logic, asynchronicity, having to wait for stuff, having to like do these multiple steps? Can we create one-click DeFi that moves across boundaries? So that's the idea behind Nimbora. So this kind of like infrastructure that basically abstracts all the bridging part, aggregates users in the batches, and that way decreases the cost per user also, and enables them to interact seamlessly with L1 DeFi. I mean, one of the promises of is like rollups in general and ZK rollups is to scale Ethereum, and this is the direct way to do so. And in this case, that was kind of the liquidity DeFi pooling per se. When we have like 5 users on L2, let's say you want to borrow against liquidity on L1, we aggregate that. We've reached that as a one kind of asset. Let's say there are 5 of us, everybody deposited like 1 ETH, so we have 5 ETH. We've reached that to L1, deposit into liquidity throw, borrow LUSD against that, and bridge it to L2. But the issue with that is you don't know what the gas on mainnet will be in the future. You have delays on that and so on. So the current iteration we are building with Nimbora is actually, you don't care about L1 fees. You just care about L2 stuff. And we basically give you this experience, but without exposing to L1 gas fees and stuff like that. So that's what's coming basically.
So what you're describing, and if I understand correctly, Nimbora, it's a one-click DeFi, you say, but not from Starknet. It's one-click DeFi. You're basically batching from L2 to L1 and back, and among other things.
Yeah, it's Starknet. It works on Starknet. So yeah.
So it started with this, but it also involves things like direct withdrawal, right? So if I understand Nimbora, if I understand correctly, basically you're trying to make talking to like interaction between layers invisible for the users. Is that a correct assessment?
when you think about the internet, it feels kind of it's synchronous, but you don't know. It's kind of asynchronous, a lot of components, information going around. So why would we have to expose users to all these things? Why can't it feel like synchronous? And they're basically like for the deposit, obviously, of the assets you deposit to L2, you don't have to care about L1, all that pieces that are moving around. And then when you want to withdraw, you're also basically a L2 user that wants to do this faster or slower, depending basically on
Right.
the how much you're willing to pay. But you never should touch L1, you never should bridge and those kind of things because issues happen there. We need to make basically these things abstracted. And one of the beauties of Starknet is account abstraction. So, like we can do wonders with this, like, like multi-calls and stuff. So you can do whatever. So let's say you want to like stake with Lido, but you don't have it, you have stables. You can do like multi-calls here, like swap with Avenue and then deposit to Nimbora Vault, and then we aggregate all those things. And you can do multiple of these things. And that's the beauty of the whole thing. So that's why we're building on Starknet. One of the reasons, basically, it's really good. So yeah.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And so, I mean, we discussed basically your motivation historically to join Starknet. My question now is like, on terms of L2 network infrastructure, what made you stay? What made you choose Starknet over another environment, or even deploy on cross layer, as many does?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of the things is community. So like one of the key things you can never buy, or you can never like artificially create is obviously the community. When you have a strong community on the ecosystem, people that are building this, like it's one of the key ingredients. And I always joke that Cairo is a feature and a bug because like it's harder to get started, but once you get started, you can just easily go and deploy somewhere else. So you have to build on the top of this. So that's why one of the reasons we believe is because of the strong community, products building on top, and so on, is that basically Starknet is going to be here and is going to thrive in like 2, 3, 5 years, 10 years, and so on. And obviously, like this is a long-term like architecture, like infrastructure that we are building that we also need on the Starknet side because we go step back. So we can do this kind of L1 DeFi things and so on. But the key point would be integrating that locally to L2s because let's say you will stake with Lido, but you want to withdraw faster. You go to local DEX and basically like withdraw from there. Maybe you want to do some leverage on money markets. Maybe you can do it locally and so on. So Nimbora can kind of like, use both layers to do this. So yeah.
Makes sense. And so just one second.
Sure.
And so when it comes to Nimbora, this is currently the main project you guys are building as an app on Starknet.
Yep.
My big question is, what's the first go-to-market? What's the first product you're going to release, or what did you already release, and what does it do? How can users use it and I guess make money with it?
Of course. So the idea is to target like we'll have 3 tiers, like low risk strategies, medium risk strategies, and high risk strategies. It's all about yield and getting basically assets on your like money. So the first basic ones we're going to like integrate a simple one like SDIs, like Reptesties and so on, some restaking and those kind of things. So theoretically you can kind of get exposure to maybe Eigenlayer points plus some yield from like ETH, plus maybe some Nimbora points, Stark, and so on. So like there is a bunch of basically stuff bundled. And for the user, it will be one click. They basically just come to the UI, as we released in a couple of weeks. They choose which strategy to use and just deposit the asset. And whatever asset they have in the wallet, we'll figure out the way to get it there. And that way, basically, they start passively earning on this. So you can kind of feel like it's yearn, but cross chains and so on. So you have basically strategies that can be components on both sides. So you can think about it like that.
And so how can someone, so right now what is available and what can someone build on top of it?
I mean, any yield generating strategy. So like technically you can build anything, but for example, like with liquid integration, the issue is LUSD you borrow doesn't bring you yield, doesn't bring you any additional income. And then the whole kind of who pays the L1 gas like cost doesn't work. So what we did is we abstracted that, say, okay, we are going to take 10% profit fee on L2. You basically don't pay L1 gas. So all the yield stuff that basically is out there, like Morpho Finance, like any Aave lending to Aave, for example, or whatever, you can scale these things to Starknet, and it can be seamless for users. So let's say you have some stables, you want to get exposure to Aave on mainnet, you can use it also through this. and so on. So there can be a bunch of stuff. Like the possibilities are, let's say, limitless on this kind of thing. So anything that generates deals, yeah.
And so, do you already see people building using Nimbora? Or is it something that you hope for?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We just basically see like the second strategy today, like some like restaking stuff, regular integration. Basically,
Wow.
like the guy be like, I'm amazed, to be honest. I didn't expect this, to be completely frank, because we released the SDK like when 3 weeks ago or something like that, and people already started building that three teams basically building different stuff. I'm like amazed, to be honest,
That's
because this is
amazing.
yeah, it's
That's
like, okay,
amazing.
what, really,
I mean, that's it starts with three and end up being 1,000
That's
people.
like excellent.
I
Exactly, yeah.
I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So what would you wish for people to be building? Like, what do you expect people? Like, what is the next thing that is going to be exciting for you, builders? If there's builder in the assembly right now, what kind of a cool idea? What kind of alpha can you give them to build?
Absolutely. So like one of the key points we want to iterate on is, like, as I mentioned, like strategies on both sides. So let's say you have SDI. So you have Spark on mainnet, you have some like stables, you want to basically LP to Spark, you get 5% on that. But then you have SDI, which you can maybe LP to some like DEX on the, let's say, Akubo or MySwap or whatever, and you can passively LP there, so you can get additional things. And then people will build Legos on top. And the whole idea for us is to expose this. So if you're a Cairo dev, you can easily build whatever L2 strategy you want. If you're a kind of Solidity dev, you don't even need to know basically Cairo. You can build strategies on top also that leverage Starknet as an engine to scale, which is even more amazing because Cairo is like so good for building all the stuff on the Starknet side. But even if you don't know it in short term, you can still build stuff for the Starknet users.
Using Solidity thanks to Nimbora. That's very exciting. And so any sort of I just I've been to the Nimbora website. Right now, I only saw liquidity. Is there other strategy coming up? Like what can we
Absolutely.
expect? And are we expecting integration within the wallets? Like, how do you see the future coming up?
Absolutely. So the first basically like iteration would be like integrating like Lidos, SDIs, and so on, restaking products, those kind of like some indexes and so on. We are discussing about those things. Also like getting some leverage possession from mainnet and so on. So that would be like the first step. And then obviously natively integrating this into dApps, because we believe, okay, well, Nimbora will have its front end. You can use it from there, but it's ultimately an engine and SDK that anybody can build on top, can build on all front ends, and basically can integrate into their own dApps. So what we believe will happen down the road is we're kind of building an engine to creating cross-chain strategies, and people will leverage this to build stuff on top and so on. We're already seeing that crazy ideas we didn't even think about that people basically are building on top. But like with a simpler kind of first step would be like this simpler strategy that you will get exposure to and so on. So yeah.
Amazing. And so we discussed partnership on L2, but do you also see partnership as with L1 project?
Absolutely. So like L1 is part of a strategy. So L1 projects scaling to Starknet because they want to come to Starknet, but it's harder sometimes to build Cairo stuff, to like do all these things which they don't have a domain knowledge. We are offering them basically this to scale those L1 protocols to Starknet directly. And then obviously we want native integrations on Starknet with DEXs, lending, borrowing markets, money markets, wallets, and so on to have this natively. Because some stuff is happening, like some new like amazing thing is happening and so on both on Ethereum side and Starknet side, and I feel like Starknet is finally maturing to full production version. Like quote unquote, some people mention token and so on, and that will open a lot of possibilities and so on. So like some call it money time, I call it production time, because that will enable a lot of stuff.
I mean that's money time has been the word on the mouth of a lot of people lately. That's quite true. So I mean, there have been like a couple of memes that has been surrounding Starknet. The least aligned, build different, the more TPS, the daddy, the various emojis. What sort of strikes you out as the more culturally significant one? What do you think is the most expressive? What do you think about the Starknet culture as a community, and how do you see it grow in the future?
To be honest, it reminds me of Ethereum one back in the day. When I joined Ethereum Foundation, basically it was like 2000, it was a wasteland, like the bear market after 2017 and so on. There wasn't a lot of builders out there, and there wasn't a lot of like products building on top. And the same ethos of focus on building, focus on long term, and not caring about short term profits, scamming people, and so on. That I won't name names, like some other, basically, there are some other ecosystems that kind of have more of this. We have a lot of builders that are focused here on building long term, which is good. And I kind of feel now like we are entering from this developer phase. Everything is built for developers by developers and so on. We're kind of maturing fast into this amazing ecosystem that will kind of power a lot of stuff. When you think about it, obviously StarkWare as a company is kind of, like people in it and co-founders invent half of these things and kind of led the space forward and so on. And it's important that like this builder culture is something that we enshrine and have for the future and like push forward and so on. And that's what kind of driving us also here, because like, okay, Starknet is the best technically. Like at this point, maybe in the future all the ZK VMs or whatever will come to the same level, blah blah, I don't know, but you can kind of get this same feeling of builders, a lot of like support that you get around and so on. It's like it's just built differently, and that's basically.
So you prefer build differently than
Absolutely.
than
I mean, it's kind of like all of those are good. More TPS Daddy like was always the best,
yeah.
but
The one PPS Daddy was the best. Yeah, that's Starknet
exactly,
for you guys.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was good time. It was good time. And so like so as an ecosystem, as we say, we're growing. We keep growing all the time, right? And my question to you is like, what kind of alpha do you have for builders out there? What kind of and for the user? So it's 2 parts. Like, what sort of like would you say to newcomers that wants to build, doesn't know where to go, doesn't even know Solidity, doesn't know Ethereum, doesn't know anything, wants to build
Absolutely.
a good app, make money, make a good product, make a good company? Or for the user, what they should explore, what they should have fun with, where can they also find the best opportunity, both economically for them and in terms of experience?
Absolutely. So like obviously Discord is always the best like answer to all those questions, because like our team is on Discord and we invite you all guys to join the Discord and so on. So like we recently just opened it. So like if you join now, you're still early. And yeah, like for basically the idea behind for the strategies for people building on top is that in the future Nimbora will have its point system where basically part of our fees for the strategies and profit will be shared with them. So if you build a strategy on top, if you build the stuff on top, it will be basically shared between you and the Nimbora as a protocol. And for the end users, basically like a bunch of front ends that will arise from this, because like we already have builders which are building their own front end, showing this, like using it basically directly. Or you can come to Nimbora website, which is nimbora.io, and in like 2 to 3 weeks use all this certain kind of stuff. So it will be live soon. So like brace with us for like 2-3 more weeks until we polish all the stuff, and then we'll move to production.
Okay, and for the user, what can they already try, and do they have good yield, and do they have a way to sort of be an early participant of Nimbora?
Absolutely. So like the best is to come to join the Discord, and then you will give you access to some of the alpha basic version of it. You need some referral key and so on to join, and so you can use it. So that's basically the best way to come, and then we'll progressively open it and so on. So like the best place again is to come to Discord, and then you will get some like early access. Like yield obviously is going to be really interesting because we combine both L1 yield plus the L2 yield, which is in my opinion perfect combo. So like we get best of both worlds. So yeah, pretty soon I believe there will be a lot of demand and people like a lot of users will use this. But for them in the end, it's just one click. They won't need to understand all the complexity of logic, like all this stuff is happening in background, because I believe that's how we should build stuff. Usually like builders build for other builders, so it's like more complex. Yeah. But yeah, products are like intended to be easy to use for normal people. That's kind of like my motto in the team in general.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. And so how do you see the future of scaling onwards? What's gonna get you excited? What is like the next generation of stuff that will and what do you see the future then?
So like one of the most interesting, like for Starknet in general, like you will have like hundreds and hundreds of rollups, and then you'll have fracture liquidity. You will have like a lot of chains that you need to use on your like wallet. You have all this stuff that you need to change, and it's like we are basically breaking the user experience a lot. So it's not a really great user experience. And on Starknet, I expect a lot of L2s, L3s, and so on to happen. But we need to abstract this from the users again. So like I'm all basically, how can we build this cross-chain functionalities that users don't need to know basically all those things? Maybe wallet aggregation stuff, maybe this like strategies that move across Starknet rollups or upchains and whatever. And maybe even Nimbora will have its rollup in the future. We don't know. Everything is a possibility. So that's all the ideas. But in the end, kind of the North Star is any basically chain you're on, any wallet that you use, it's one click for you. So you don't have to care about all this bridging complexity and stuff. As you know, that's quite it's like a big goal, but I believe nothing except like huge goals and big goals is there to do. And that's one of the biggest issues.
And so what do you expect the Nimbora chain to look like? What's the end goal there? Like
so yeah, like we're exploring obviously. Yeah, Madara maybe like the whole thing for the user like is we need cheaper transaction cost and we basically need like seamless experience and so on. So one of the ways to achieve that is go layer down or go layer up, whatever you call that, L3s and so on, or using external DAs like like Celestia, Veil and so on. So that's actually active area exploration. But still, even if you go that route, I still believe that having access to public Starknet and mainnet and so on shouldn't be dampened by that, because if we create this like friction where you have to bridge if you want to get this strategy, or you have to bridge there if you want to get another strategy, it won't work. And that's why DeFi pooling and this pooling with faults is a key point there. So we can kind of abstract that from the users. But yeah, I definitely believe that some of the stuff on the Starknet side, both Madara and custom Starknets or like this volition modes and stuff, will improve user experience a lot, because we'll kind of be the first ones to use it. So imagine I would say like, did you use maybe Revolut, or did you use some neobank for earn program? You're probably just like a DJ like me, so you just stay on chain. But yeah,
exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
but basically they're like, for example, with like this neobank. So what usually happens when you buy crypto is they are custodian of yours, and it's like oh, you have crypto but you don't. But it's easy because it's an app, so you one click. So imagine that, but it's self-custodial, it's on-chain, gas is abstracted from you, and you kind of passively earn from this, and the basically wallet is saved on your phone and so on. And when you think about it, we are not that far from it. We are basically can build this on the starting stack potentially, not today, but in a couple of months, a year, and so on. So I believe this kind of user experience can like bring us to the mass market. Obviously, one rollup won't scale enough for all the users in demand, but that's why fractal scaling maybe is a solution for this.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. And so another dimension that is quite interesting in the context of Nimbora is bridging. And so I'm curious, what's your thoughts on cross-layer bridging and how we would go?
It's a mess. Is a short answer. And yeah, because like the biggest issue with all those things is, okay, L1, L2 communication, you have canonical bridges, which kind of, roll up underneath kind of depends on the security of that bridge. So it's kind of one and the same with that. But let's say you want to do L2 bridging, let's say from, I don't know, Polygon to Starknet, to the other way around, or Optimism to Starknet. How do you do that? You have to trust third-party bridges, liquidity bridges to kind of bridge from one side to the other, which is not the best. And then basically there is a whole area of exploration now where how do you do this? Like there is like this proof aggregation networks potentially that can happen, that you have, in my opinion, what will happen is you will have liquidity on its origin. So let's say ETH is issued on mainnet, I don't know, like Stark is issued on Starknet and so on, and you won't bridge it to the other side. You will just prove you have it on that chain. You will lock it in the vault or something, so you can kind of move it from there. And then you will have all these kind of things intents aggregated on some separate thing. Is it off-chain? Is it a Web3 rollup or something? But like stuff won't move on its own, and then you can kind of get this experience for like it's kind of cross-chain DEX or whatever. I mean, you can build like a bunch of stuff there, but bridges in its core today, liquidity bridges are like cross-chain DEXs, let's be frank. So
that makes a lot of sense. And so when in the context of bridging, which one is the most interesting sort of like tech stack or tool you've been looking at, and cross layer? Yeah.
I mean, you have like two kind of things. You have like storage proofs and those kind of things, which is kind of like a ZK focused proofs and so on. And you have like economic security ones like EigenLayer and so on. I believe like the answer is somewhere in between, because okay, like EigenLayer and those kind of things, you have security guarantees, which kind of can get you to the point. But maybe combining that with storage proofs for like ultimate finality could be a thing to do. Still, we didn't solve the liquidity bridging part of that, because okay, we can like transfer messages from one side to the other, but still, how do we get this token? Let's say that is ETH that is bridged to Optimism is not the same ETH that is bridged to Starknet. They have price discrepancies and so on. But we are basically exploring that. We're exploring like Chainlink CCIP, maybe even CCTP from basically Circle. There is a bunch of these things. I believe like the aggregation layer there would be really interesting, because you have like Polygon is building this kind of like aggregation layer for their own zkVM chains, and then maybe Starknet will build that. Optimism is building these super clusters, also the Arbitrum. Who does the connections in between? Do we do it only across layer one? Maybe. And that's basically the part we are doing now. So L1, L2 communication, only canonical bridges, and then basically we'll handle the rest maybe into the future. So you can kind of use, let's say you deposit on Polygon, we bridge kind of this deposit to Starknet, and then settle it via Starknet and so on. Because at one point we have to aggregate to Nimbora like layer 3 or right. Starknet or somewhere. So we have to settle this somewhere.
Makes a lot of sense. And so, and on the context of the existing team, did you talk, to I mean, the wormhole, etc., layer 0 of the world? Like, what do you think of them? How do you see them? Anything competition, partners?
I mean, they're partners, because like we are basically doing L1, L2 communication. We are building strategies on top. So we are not a bridge project per se, but obviously we have a bridging infrastructure and so on under the hood. We're using Stargate at this point for Starknet communication to L1 to L2. And then down the road, we'll have to partner with some of those projects. So like we are like talking with all of them. But yeah, like the issue with is, like there are multiple parties, they have own like token standards for bridging and so on. So you have vendor lock-ins there. It's all flavors of gray. There is no one silver, so like one gold solution that works for everybody. So, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's definitely active every exploration. So like we are now focusing on Starknet and Ethereum, scaling that, and then we'll figure out the rest down the road. So, yeah.
And so in terms of, so there is one aspect that we haven't touched so far, which is, as opposed to many solutions, there is a high concept of, of what blockchain tends to have, which is synchronicity. And Nimbora is very much into asynchronous messaging.
Yeah.
How do you see this? What do you see? What do you like? What's going on there? What can we expect there?
Sure. So like, as I mentioned, like internet is also synchronous. All the stuff that is happening kind of in normal world or non-Web3 world is also asynchronous. So we can either go to, in the terms of like blockchains, Web3, we can go to Solana and just build everything there, which kind of can scale to a point, but can scale ultimately. Or we can have like Ethereum roadmap, which is scaling with back in the day with sharding, now with rollups. If you ask me, it's a flavor of the same thing. It's a different technology, but we will basically again come to sharding at one point. But the point with the asynchronicity is you have to embrace it. Like the whole kind of thing is you have to kind of handle it in the background. For the user, though, it shouldn't be exposed. And the user shouldn't be exposed to it as much as possible, because users are like used to getting like seamless experience. Let me go a step back even to like, let's say how Robinhood works. Like when you want to trade something on Robinhood or whatever, you feel it's like synchronous, but you actually don't have you're kind of like trading the derivative there. Yeah, I'm going too far now, but yeah.
No. Absolutely not. And that's a very super interesting. I just read a question that I found interesting when we talk about, which is Bitcoin scaling with Cairo. I can happily discuss it afterwards.
Actually, when you think about the design of Nimbora, is similar to how Beacon Chain communicates. Let's say Lido, how basically deposits and staking and unstaking work. It's kind of quite similar to that. So we already have a synchronicity even on Ethereum, but people like users are not exposed to that.
Makes a lot of sense. And so, okay, so now we touch a lot of Nimbora, we touch a lot of Petrol Labs. in context of like maybe a more macro or like more global industry, what sort of application do you see blowing under the new upcoming bull market that will reach us one day if the god of bulls wants to wake up?
Promise of a bear market, a bull market. Yeah, exactly. So one of the like main things is like this ultimate scalability of ZK. Like I believe, or at least I'm optimistic, that this bull market we can actually achieve the scale of ZK rollups that are bigger than the existing optimistic and everything else. And when we have that, we have Rails like AWS was exploration basically for the internet, for the cloud computing back in the day, because you have this seamless like expansion and on-demand scale, which is crucial because like with blockchains at this point, we didn't have on-demand scale. And then Nimbora comes as a part where you like tap back all this layer and make it like feel like it's synchronous communication, and you abstract all these complexities going cross-chain and so on. So that's kind of there. And then what we can build on top is a bunch of stuff. Like this infra will help you get normal users from Web2 that can use an account abstraction wallet like in their kind of apps without even having to know all this stuff. Because gas is kind of like a feature, but it's a bug for the end user because it changes what are the fees there and so on. You need paymasters, you need wallets that work on their own. You need all these things, and Starknet is kind of promising that. And when you have like multiple Starknet networks that are connected via Nimbora or otherwise, well, you will have a lot of potential applications that work across shards, as I like to call them. But yeah, they're like cross rollups, but kind of shards. So yeah.
I mean, I just want to start touching a couple of points. The question that were asked, which I found very interesting. So there is but they're not ready to you directly, so I'm just going to answer them as they were asked, and maybe we can continue with more questions for you. First of all, there was a question about are ZK rollup readily any better than optimistic rollup, consider the highest cost. So basically, if you go to L2 fees right now, ZK rollup, and I have to give it to my dear colleagues at ZK Sync, are now cheaper than optimistic rollup. And they're going to be even much cheaper under 4404. So are they any better? The short answer is yes, yes, and yes. And I'm writing a whole thesis about something called Kruger servers that I'm going to make public to the world soon, which is that ZK is going to finally make a lot of ideas that we've seen in the space of crypto for a long time, revive them in a way that would make finally successful. So yes, they are much better, and to a point which is not even negotiable. Okay, so now there is another question, which was about Bitcoin and BitVM. So I happen to be a bit of a Bitcoin fan. I have to say, I do have proof. I do have proofs. That's my personal guilty pleasure. And if you can even find video of me of 2020 in 2022 arguing that Bitcoin makes a better L1 for settling than Ethereum. It was an Ethereum conference, and I have to admit it was not well received, but it was good. This time scaling Bitcoin through Cairo. There is obviously a very that's a short answer is yes, yes. But I would say, by the way, it's not even true only for Ethereum. I would say also it's true for Ethereum. Things like Kakarot is rocking right now to become a Type 2, then a Type 1 ZKVM, and ZeroSync is here to basically make a provable Bitcoin ready to production, which is almost ready there. BitVM is not a rollup, just to be clear. It's how can I say that? It's a sort of a better version of a state channel, which it's like sort of like a fraud-proof base. It's a fraud-proof. It's an optimistic rollup, sort of. The reason why there's ZK is just to simplify the model they're working on, but it's basically a optimistic rollup. It's not there yet. First of all, the BitVM is BitVM is very exciting stuff. I'm going first. BitVM is it's a fraud-proof mechanism. Citria, which is using BitVM, is a fraud-proof, optimistic rollup. And so the reason, actually, the interesting thing about BitVM is that it sort of spun out from the work that ZeroSync did and that Starkware and among others financed and co-developed. So the short answer, Bitcoin scaling through Cairo is already happening. It's called Cairo ZeroSync, and I think there is a lot more to come in that direction in the near future. So again, I'm very excited about this. So we kind of touch a lot of questions. Is there any questions for my dear girlfriend Edi here, which are not the ones I'm not going to answer because they're very annoying and not like. But yeah. So what else can I say? I mean, I do have a couple of comments about our Edi sort of. I mean, I actually have some meta comments about builders here and involvement in the community because Edi has been involved in the community for a very long time, and the person who's in charge of Nimbora is someone who was also in the community and got like basically acquired or a recruit by Edi.
He joined the team. No, he joined the team.
He joined the team.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Like we have look, when we build stuff, like I don't believe in like there is a boss and there are like leaders and like followers and stuff. Like we're building it together. So that's kind of the key point and difference here. So just want to clarify that. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's like very cool when I see all those people who have been in this space for like so long and so finally ended up working together and building companies together and so on. This is very exciting stuff. And I kind of I find it extremely fascinating to see all those guys and what Edi and Sasha has been doing in Nimbora. So I want to congratulate them for their work. I mean, maybe Edi has questions for me.
I mean, like, it's really interesting. As you mentioned, Bitcoin, that's one of the Pandora box that is going to be huge, especially if this like stack starts to work, where we can scale kind of Bitcoin. So imagine now like using Starknet to scale Bitcoin or like zero sync. So to maybe even scale Bitcoin at one point. So you can do with Cairo much more than you can do on any ZKVM. So maybe that's also like one of the things, what we could build in the future. I don't know. That's like a long way there, but like that's why I like this ecosystem. It's like it's a bit different. It's not like, oh, we're having EVM, we have to be compatible with that because blah blah blah. That's the mainstream. But let's experiment. Let's build new things. Like Ethereum wasn't built overnight, and it wasn't built like, oh yeah, we have this clear roadmap. We're going to do. Back in the day, actually, when I was starting, I started playing with Hyperledger Fabric. I don't know if you remember Hyperledger.
Oh, I remember. Wait, I remember that
was
time.
A mess. That was a mess. Yeah,
that's funny.
When I think about it now, imagine if those kind of things succeeded, enterprise change and so on. They didn't. But because like Ethereum was this kind of new thing, they're trying to explore new things and was focused on ideals and trying to focus on long terms and not short terms. That's why I like StarkWare also and Starknet as an ecosystem.
Awesome. Great. So that makes so much fun. I mean, I would just say to the users here, who wants to. There is a good question from Ezra before we end up finishing the conversation. Ezra is asking about the scaling versus scaling through Starknet versus Solana. So I mean, Solana. So people don't really. That's a very good question because people don't really understand what scaling means, and I love to talk about this. It's one of my favorite.
Exactly. I mean, we can run it on AWS. Why even use the blockchain? It scales. Like you can spin out as many machines as you want. So
Exactly. so this is what I really find funny because people talk about scaling, but they kind of miss the point, which is because for instance, when you compare the TPS of let's say Solana versus ETH versus Bitcoin, I mean you're comparing an apple, an orange, and a Ferrari. I always say that sentence. I always say that because it's basically not the same thing at all. Bitcoin target machine is a Raspberry Pi. Ethereum is basically my MacBook Pro 2021, and Solana is a $2,000 machine per month. I mean, and this is the machine they want to use. So the second you're still using stronger hardware, of course you can go faster. But it's kind of funny to me that people sort of compare them out of the box, and people don't understand that if you're a key Nigeria, then you're not going to have a MacBook Pro 2021 because it's out of your scale. But if you are a company, even if you're a rich kid from let's say the US, even renting a $2,000 machine per month is expensive. So we're really not talking about the same thing. And where ZK comes to play and solves it is it allows you to verify what someone did on a data center and verify it on your phone. This is where the scale comes from. So Solana approach to scale. And so this is just a verification from, but what Solana is actually optimizing for execution. And anything that Solana has been doing, other ecosystem could do. we actually don't take that path because we think that access list is the way Solana scale is through access list. It's a very annoying process for dev to write using it, and for the front end. And we prefer to make it easy for devs to build while optimizing also for parallelization of other things. So Solana is great tooling, but it's kind of leaky in terms of abstraction to a low scale. We try to take another approach which will not be as leaky. So we should get to 1,000 TPS by probably end of year. If I hope so. I wouldn't touch wood. I mean, I touch wood, but I wouldn't like commit to it. But like, if we get to 1,000 TPS, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the key points is trust. Like with ZK, it's trustless. That's kind of the way when you kind of generate proofs and stuff. Like it's completely different than Solana. Okay, you trust these guys who are running bit machines. It's fine. There's kind of a consensus. You cannot have it, but still, the network goes down and stuff. It's fine. It's early, but yeah.
I mean, look, and by the way, there is someone saying I took a hit on Nigeria. I'm not taking a hit on Nigeria. I'm actually referring to one special guy in the ecosystem. That is, I won't name who he is. He wouldn't recognize himself. Who learned to code on paper because he couldn't have access to a computer. And the first line of code he ever wrote was on a 5-inch phone. So it has nothing to do with me saying that Nigeria doesn't have access to computers. I just mean that as a kid in Nigeria, you have, of course, less likelihood of accessing the machine that you require to run Solana. I, as myself, being a rich kid from France, I'm not have the capacity to buy Solana, to buy a computer on Solana. Like, it's a joke. Like, I'm making a joke, but you know what I'm saying. And there's one question before we finish. There is, have you fired the e-beggar intern? We actually promoted it. Just Abdel became the head of the ecosystem now, and is doing very well. I know it was a joke, but I wanted, the reason why I always think about Nigeria when I think this example is because of this guy. I won't name him because I don't know if he wants me to name you, so I name him. But he's a very well-known figure in the Starknet ecosystem, and he literally told me that he learned to code on paper at 15, and I was like, "What the fuck, dude?" That's hardcore.
Imagine that will exactly. He will achieve much more. People like, oh, like my laptop is like from 2021. Like I need a new one.
So, yeah, right. I mean that's different. Like, and so this is like I actually one Nigerian person in mind when I say that sentence. But to go back, as you just said, like to the guy who asked me if the e-beggar intern got fired. No, he got promoted. He's now in charge of all the e-beggars, and then now he's in charge of exploration and the ecosystem team. So that's very exciting. He actually took over my role, and I moved towards. You see, you bring my point. Agata. Prove my point. That's it. So. I mean, I think we covered it. Unless you say Eddie has other thing to do, or is there either the question in the chat, otherwise I think we're going to close. And I want to thank you everyone for joining and asking those fun questions and all the ridiculous. I have to say, Edi, you're funny. I don't know which game is called Edi on the chat, but it's funny. I did laugh a lot.
Yeah, it's always fun, like with a community like this. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is by the way, there's going to be a conference. I see someone talking about Nigeria. There's going to be a conference in Nigeria, I believe in April. I'm not sure exactly the date in Lagos. It's yeah. I mean, the Nigeria example is a very concrete one. And so thank you so much, Edi. Best luck for Nimbora. Nimbora is doing a really good job. And I really love what you guys are building, and looking forward to chat again and probably see. Are you going to be in Denver?
Absolutely, I will be in Denver. So like, let's meet and chat. So
exactly.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure as always. Like on coffee, I enjoy it every time. Like
always,
such a good energy. That's what I like always.
Always. Okay, so in this case, to all the participants who listen to us, thank you so much for listening, asking the funny question, and I'm looking forward to see soon my Nigerian friends. As I said, I might be coming actually, and otherwise, looking forward for the upcoming future of Starknet. See you guys. Bye bye.
See you. Bye bye.